Hey guys, welcome back for another exciting episode of YOML. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast, and today we have Reflection 360. And I guess the book, I'll let Chris tell you.
Well, I mean, this is an easy book to know what it's about. It's called The Storyteller, Tales of Life and Music by Dave Grohl. So, you know who Dave Grohl is, right?
I don't. That's why I said this is
Uh,
not probably a book and off, beaten path for me.
it's a memoir of
He's a musician, some sort
a
of.
musician. So he was the he's yeah, he's had an incredible career. He was most well known. Well, no, actually, that's not true. He was originally known, which is actually the wildest thing about Dave Grohl's life, is he was originally the drummer of Nirvana, right? So Nirvana was Kurt Cobain, and Dave Grohl was the drummer. I forget who the bass guy was. He was the drummer in Nirvana. You know Nirvana, right?
I'm uncultured.
Nirvana was the biggest band in the world from like probably 1992 to
Yeah,
19.
I mean, I have one of those things where I like have a almost two left foot of
Fair
sort.
enough.
As far as music concerned, I'm
First
like
music.
when these kind of thing is really over my head.
Wow. Well, I mean, like the fact that you've never even heard it. I mean, that's like you never hearing of like Aerosmith or like the Beatles almost, you know? I mean, you know who those are, right?
I know the beat is not from not from the music itself.
Like, do you know who Led Zeppelin is? Or
I heard of him, don't know him. I heard.
it's a band. Yeah. So I'm not saying like I'm big fans of these bands necessarily. They're just incredibly like
Taylor Swift, but I have no idea what Taylor. I mean, the
Taylor,
thing is,
Taylor Swift is the furthest thing from Nirvana that you could possibly be. Oh
but
my
like I
God.
said, I know of Taylor Swift because of all the news he's on, and you cannot help but like this Taylor Swift that, right? For me, it's like
Ta-
I know
Taylor,
of some of these things, but have no idea what it is.
Taylor Swift is a
It's
pop
like you turn on the
country
radio
singer.
and you can't help but have her music blast, you know, across your face, and
All
you
right,
have to.
name me a rock band that you know, or any rock bands that you know.
Rascal Flats.
That's not a rock band. That's a country band. But yeah, that's a. I
I
guess
don't
that's a
know.
band. I guess that's a band. I guess that counts as a band.
My high school marching band and the Texas Aggie marching band. Talk
Oh
about
my
band.
gosh.
I know what band is.
Rock
What is a rock band?
and roll, man. Rock and holy shit. Okay, all right. Well then I guess I gotta. I didn't think I was gonna have to start with who Dave Grohl is with you. All right, so Nirvana was one of the biggest musical acts in the world in the early 90s. I can't believe I'm saying this. There was this movement that they kind of started that was called the Seattle Grunge movement, which was like Metallica and all these other random ass bands that came out of Seattle. And it was like grunge. It was like flannel when everybody was wearing flannel and the real world Seattle. It was called grunge music because it was very Gen X angsty and like we're all gonna die, like the world sucks, you know, we're all worthless kind of music. And it was all very melodramatic and like a new age rock. So like when you have rock back in the 60s, 70s, whatever, like the Led Zeppelin era, the Beatles, you know, like back in those times, right? Like that was more the pure rock and roll. And then you that bridge during the 80s with these 80s hair bands where there was Motley
Mhm.
Crue and Def Leppard and Poison and whatever. And that was like party rock kind of almost, if you will, like hair band, you know, party music, girls, 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 you know, whatever, that kind of really party culture. And then the early 90s, it flipped completely 180. It went from this like party rock star 80s hair band, you know, to like these super serious, like intense, like grunge bands that were like, you know, life's not cool, man. You know, we're gonna make like really like, you know, angsty like music about what it's like real life, you know, man, you know, and they were very
Sounds like you're on acid.
kind of probably, you know, it was probably like what you would have thought of like hippies back in the 60s and 70s, but like translated into like the 1990s Gen
Mhm.
X grunge, you know, it's called grunge music, right? So
Okay.
Nirvana was like the flag bearer of the grunge music era, you know, in like the early 90s. And there was no bigger band in the world. I mean, they were just huge, massive. They came out of nowhere and took over the world. And Dave Grohl was the drummer of Nirvana. So their lead singer, his name was Kurt Cobain. You ever heard of Kurt Cobain before?
know who he is.
Well, you've heard of him because he's really famous because he died really early on. Kurt Cobain was a heroin addict. Kurt Cobain died in 1994 on April 5th, 1994. This is the height of Nirvana's peak, right? They were the biggest band in the world, and Kurt Cobain was like struggling with really bad addiction to heroin, and he OD'd on heroin. He was really depressed and shitty. You know, life was sucked, whatever. He has his own troubled childhood. Well, Dave Grohl was the drummer of that band, right? So Dave, you would think at that point in time that you've already lived a lifetime of craziness, you know, being nobodies to the biggest band in the world to now your lead singer, the front facing person of your band dies, and you know, that would be the end of it, right? Well, Dave Grohl loved music. He's loved music since he was a little kid, and that's his most damn activity. He just loves music, eats, sleeps, and breathes it. And he ended up starting up a new band called the Foo Fighters. Have you ever heard of the Foo Fighters before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yep. Dave Grohl is the lead singer of the Foo Fighters, and then he's also started multiple other bands as well, in addition to the Foo Fighters. So he went on to have a whole nother, you know, second and third act of his career where he spent the next 20, 25 years as a rock legend of the modern age rock. Like Foo Fighters is his thing. It's not just Nirvana. It wasn't whatever. It was like his own thing. And then he's been very heavily influential in the rock and roll world since his time in Nirvana and his post career after Nirvana. So that's this autobiography about Dave Grohl's life, and it's called The Storyteller, and it's about him telling stories about his life and music and how he came to love it and learn it and grow. Yeah. So that's it. Does that help you with what I'm talking about now?
Yep. Okay.
Okay. So I cannot believe you've never heard of Nirvana. I mean, that blows my mind. I mean, honestly, like that's almost on the par of not knowing who the Beatles are. I mean, the Beatles are way bigger than Nirvana, but like, you know, Nirvana at its peak was probably the same as like the Beatles at their peak, I would think, you know. I mean, they were just like everywhere. They were everything for like they were pop culture and rock and
right. I mean, when you're a beaver and you know,
yeah,
you don't really
Jesus.
care.
You were beavering, man. And speaking of beavering, because Dave Grohl is a beaver, so this is
beavering in his own world.
This is Kurt Cobain, by the way. This guy, you recognize him at all? By any chance?
No.
All right. So do you know who Dave Grohl is? Here, I'll see if you recognize this guy.
No.
Fair enough. All right.
I heard of him. No, I recognize him now.
All right. So this book, easily the reflection could have been like a Beaver Must Dam with Dave Grohl, because this was like textbook A Beaver Must Dam. He had this like certain way that he heard songs when he was a little kid. He was like compelled to try to play them and drum them. He couldn't even read music, and he just heard things and he was able to do it and do it faster, and he was obsessed with it. He ended up falling in love with punk music, and then he fell in love with, you know, rock music, and then he fell in love with all this, and he's just been playing music. Is his Beaver Must Dam. If Dave Grohl is not playing music, the guy will die. Like, I mean, he is obsessed. Like, I mean, this has been his life, and it will be his life until the day that he probably dies. You know, I could easily have written this reflection about Dave's life and Beaver Must Dam activities. However, we're way past that at this point in time of this journey. We're on 360. We're 5 away from the finish line at this point in time of the original marathon. So this reflection is actually about something that Dave said in his journey that kind of touched me a little bit, and that was, as a father of 2, you know, and you're a father of 4. I think so. I said this will be a kind of a fun conversation. Dave was a bit of a shithead of a child, and he got in trouble all the time, and he hurt himself all the time doing stupid shit. And his mom was like a single mom that raised him. Multiple times he put her through a whole lot of crap that as a kid you don't really think about, right? You know, when you're a kid, you're just doing what you do, and you're like, oh man, these parents are bringing me down, and they're blah 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 blah. But like as a parent, you know, now on the other end of the equation, you know, see things differently now, right? I mean, I'm sure you do, as I do, from when you were younger to when you're now as a parent, right? So one of the things that Dave said in this book was a revelation that he had the first time that one of his children got seriously injured, and he realized, you know, and he saw his daughter in like pain and crying and really suffering, and he was like, well, shit, like, you know, this is kind of everything, and it really hurts me. And he was like, he called his mom right after this happened, and he was like, he apologized for all the things that he did that, you know, that caused that he carelessly and recklessly put himself in danger, you know, and injured himself over the course of his life, and put her in that position of being the one that had to be sitting there with his child in pain and seriously injured and hurting and not knowing what to do, and feeling that helplessness that you feel when your child's in pain, right? You know, and just wanting to do anything you can to take that away. And he had this revelation of, you know, you're only as happy as your least happy child, right? You know, like if one of your kids is sad and hurting, then that's the level of happiness you can be at, and you can't leave that until that's not there, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, that's just a fact of being a parent at this point in time. And for me, this quote, and the revelation from him about his life hit me pretty hard, because I have a really weird and unique situation with my children, because one of them is here and one of them is not here. And for Luca, it's easy to see when he's in pain, right? Like, I mean, it's super easy to see when he's hurting and he's not happy. You can't not see it, right, when they're in front of you. With Amelia, it's different for me. I have to really try hard to connect with her and understand when she's not happy. And for me, I've come to know that she's not happy when I'm not following my promise that I made to her to follow my values and to be the person that I said that I wanted to be, and so we can have that time to connect with each other. So whenever I start to deviate from that, or whenever I feel tempted to deviate from that, that's when I get that kind of shitty, icky feeling in my stomach, of not holding true to my promises to my daughter. And I feel like that's when she's in pain, and I have to recognize that, I guess, myself, and I have to address that, right? You can't go forward until you do this stuff, right? You just can't move forward unless one of your children is happy. So these are the things that we do as parents, and we're happy to do it. I think it is true. You're only as happy as your least happy child. I'd love to get your thoughts as a father of four. What do you think?
Well, it can be further from the truth. It doesn't matter, right? How many kids are happy, as long as one of them is not happy, your focus and attention is on that kid. And
Right.
so that's just the way life is. But I guess that could translate into a group setting as well.
Yep.
You're talking about the speed of the army is the slowest, the slowest guy, whatever that guy is. I
Right.
mean, if he's carrying some baggage or some artillery supplies or whatever, I mean, army can't just go on without him. So same thing with people as well. In a certain setting, you go with the cadence. I guess the question I have for you is, what can we learn from this?
I mean, you can't be happy in life if you can't help the people that matter most to you to be happy in life. If the people around you aren't, let's just extrapolate this out. If you were not happy and enjoying these conversations and your mind was distracted on something else, I don't know that I wouldn't enjoy YOML, right? Like, I mean, because it wouldn't be fun if you weren't able to do it, with me, right? There's nobody more important in your life than your children, so it's hard to find any joy in anything you do if your kids are not happy and healthy. You can't move forward unless you have certain baseline foundational elements satisfied.
That's just human nature. I
Right.
mean, you are a certain person. You are compelled to do certain activities.
Right.
You are given the gene of a parent. You're gonna want to try to do everything you can possibly can think of to alleviate whatever pain or suffering that kid. The value of the connections to that person, it's strong, right? And that means that the stronger that connection, the more pain you will feel. So you think about, like, if you have somebody who's close to you, whether it's your grandparents or somebody that passes away, right? It hurts, right? Because it's pain. But if there are probably millions of people die every day,
Mhm.
and you don't know, you slept like a baby. But
Right.
I'm
That's true.
saying
Yeah.
it is a beaver must stem activity for us. And from my perspective, that's something that I don't think you're gonna have to do anything in terms of like the people that are given to you, like your kids, right?
Right.
But there are certain people that you can choose, right? You can choose your wife, you can choose your friends, you can choose who you do YOMO with, right?
Right.
And that, to me, in a way, it's a lesson for us. Based on what I know about this particular reflection, you are basically as happy as the least happy person in there, because they basically
It's true.
drag it. You're gonna average
Yeah.
out. But if you belong in a circle, then you have to share the pain, the memory. So when you
Yep.
create this circle, like you and I get together, we create this circles of company, right? So when we hear about Amelia, we share some of the pain that you're feeling. We don't share as much as you do, but we still share it because there is a connection. We care, and the people who never met you, don't know you, they don't even know the difference. But my point is, there is a freedom to choose. Meaning to me, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. If that makes sense.
So you can't change the people around
You
you.
can't change the people around you.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
And so to me,
unless they're your kids, you cannot change that.
You can choose the people that surrounds you. Like
Right.
you and me, like if you and I don't have any kind of an alignment, then we shouldn't have to force ourselves to go and talk about things we don't care about.
I agree.
And because like if you're the kind of guy that it's miserable all the time, and if I stick with you, I'll be miserable too.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, people say
100%,
misery
yeah.
loves company, right?
I mean, it's the person that's the shitty person in the room. Like that is the mood, when you're in a group setting and somebody walks in and they're like, fuck this, and they're bad mouthing or whatever. I do feel like that person has an outlying influence on the broader group, and I'm not saying your kids are like that, but I'm just saying like in general, but they are kind of like that, right? Like if you're, okay, I'll give you an example just from the past couple of weeks. Luca had pink eye and got sick, just like over the past week and a half, right? And my wife and I about fucking killed each other. I mean, we're figuring out how to do everything else in life and trying to, manage him, and he's not happy and not feeling good, and
no one's happy.
No one's happy.
No one's happy.
Well, it's not that my wife's not. My wife, it's my son. If my son or my daughter isn't happy, then my wife isn't happy. Then I'm not happy. Then no one of us are happy, right? I mean, it is just it's such a connected life, I guess. To the people around you, make a massive influence.
So this is what I'm saying is there are people that you cannot change, right? The people that are given to you, like your sons and your daughter, you can't choose them, but you can choose your wife, you can choose your co-workers, you can choose your friends, right? So to me, this is the important lesson that I want to bring out, is knowing how we behave as a human species. We understand that we have limited choices, but when we do have limited choices, we need to be, I guess, very cautious of the choice we make. So if somebody comes to you and say, hey, Chris, can I be your friend? Right? And say, well, what would you say if somebody comes to you, hey, Chris, I like you, can be your friend? What would you say?
Sure.
Exactly. This is what people that's what people do. You may like him or her, your friends, i.e. acquaintance and friends, whatever, for a certain character traits, but not all the character traits. You take in the whole person as a whole. What I'm saying is that person, because of the other character trait that you may not align with, it may brings you misery if you don't choose carefully.
Oh,
so
100%.
It's super important to understand, your choices you have to make that brings you happiness. So when you say, after all, you are only as happy as the least happy child, right? That's something you're given. You can't change that. But in a group setting, like, hey, you are as happy as the most miserable person in the room, right? Get out the room. Get out the room. If your friends are like bitching all the time, right? Stop talking to them. If your friends are completely like neurotic and that's not who you want to be, then stop being friends with them.
Like I know you're saying it isn't like this is so obvious, and it is, but at the same time,
but it isn't.
It's not.
It isn't,
right,
because I asked, if somebody comes to you and say, hey, I want to be a friend. Yeah, because and then you don't like that person, but I still want to be friends. And hey, give me a chance. I want to be friends.
Right.
You give more time, and eventually, hey, I like that guy, but I don't really like that guy.
Yeah, no, isn't the saying you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with, or something like that,
Yeah.
And I really do believe that at this point.
Because the thing is, you imagine, right? Let's say you hang out with people who lies all the time. You're gonna still lying. If you hang out with people who have integrity, like, you're gonna have integrity just because you align with them, because your core values are not like lying. It actually eats at you when you're in that group. Even though you say, hey, I like playing with this guy. I like tennis and he like tennis and blah, blah, blah. We have some commonality, but he's not accountable, for example.
Right.
Or he is always late or he's not punctual or whatever. And so that will rub off on you. And whenever you belong to that kind of group setting, yes, you do have commonalities. And sometimes like it's fun, but sometimes it's like, I mean,
That's
kind of
enough.
like
I got to cut that off and go,
it is not your core value. You will create misery for yourself by because it's conflicting with who you are as a person, even though you kind of accepts it without say, hey, yeah, it's only I'll I just basically kind of like endure his whatever for a little bit, right? And so that's what people do, and I think that's a mistake.
You want to hear something wild, even from just tonight, right? So I told you I was one of my best friends that I've known since I don't even know. I think we were probably like 6 years old when I met, or when we originally met. Like I think we were in kindergarten or first grade or something like that. I haven't seen him. He has a 1-year-old son, just turned 1 like a month ago, and he's obviously very busy these days. I'm very busy all the time. I really haven't seen him since. It's probably been at least 4 or 5 months since I've like hung out with him or like done anything, just even like been in his presence, beyond like just text message threads or whatever that we're always on and stuff. I don't know if you've noticed this, but in the past 30 minutes we've been on here, like I don't even know I have no fucking idea what these yahoos are talking. Look, what the fuck is happening? We were catching up, and obviously my friend Kevin knows about the pickleball club that I'm starting. He was like, hey, but we haven't really had a chance to like talk about it like in depth, and he was like, tell me all about it. I'm really excited to hear it. I've actually told you about Kevin before. Kevin is one of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet in your life. He's very much so like he'll even describe himself. He describes himself as this, it's like kind of like a chameleon whenever he's, whoever he's around and what they care about, like that's kind of what he adopts is what he cares about in that moment. And that is his Beaver Must activity. He makes people feel comfortable about what matters to them most. One of the things that sucks is that leaves me with, I don't know what I really love. I just love what everybody else really loves. Like, and it's tough for him, right? So we were hanging out, and I was like, hey, I just FYI, I got to get back by 8:30 because I have a call I got to get back to, and we'd been hanging out for a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours or whatever, and he was like, what do you have to do at 8:30? I'm like, call for the pickleball stuff, and I was like, no, this is my conversation. I was like, I haven't told you about this, and he goes, no, I've never told you about this. I go, well, it's kind of a long story, but I meet this guy every single night, and I have for almost the past 4 years since Amelia passed away. And he was like, what are you talking about? I go, yeah, well, I mean, I don't. So I had to go explain to him this whole entire scenario, right? And he was like, that's fucking wild, Chris. And he goes, I want to watch these videos. Like he was like, I would love to. He's like, I know that we don't have as much time to spend together, but he was like, I want to hear Chris's insights and wisdoms and listen to this stuff and to hear what your friend True has to say as well. And the conversations. He was like, because I was kind of shying away from being like, don't go to watch any of the things that we posted or anything like that online. I don't really. I was like, we don't care if anybody's getting value. He's like, but Chris, I want to hear, you're like one of my best friends, and I like the stuff that you have to say, I want to hear these things. And it was funny to me because it was a reminder of how much time that I spend with you versus even some of the people that I've been so close with over my entire life that I haven't seen them. Talk about the 5 people you spend the most time with, kind of reflection. I'm proud to say that you and I are doing this stuff every single night because I do actually appreciate what I learn from you and what I gain from you in these conversations. And like, it does make me feel like it's aligning to who I want to be and where I want to go with my life. And all those things matter, right? And when it comes to like, your children, like I mean, like you just can't move forward. Like if they're not, you can't do anything else. Like, it's like, the world stops if they're not happy, I don't know if it's always going to be like this. I wonder what my parents think if I'm not happy. Does the same thing still happen when they're grown and when you're, I don't fucking know, but it's just such a wild experience to think about. Do you even remember what life was like before you had kids at this point in time?
In what way? I mean, yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I was a terrible kid.
Right, like that's. I mean, the amount of
I told you I was a black sheep, right? I always get into trouble, and I would do stupid shit normal kids don't do, right? And like, I mean, when I came here when I was like 10 years old, right? And my parents, like, they don't speak English. They have to go work, and it was very hard for them to get a job, and they do labor work. I go stay at home. I get into fights at school many times, and parents got caught, and I broke my arm doing stupid shit, and people have to say, "Hey, call mom to get to kind of like to to excuse herself from work, which is very difficult because she doesn't know how to speak English. And the job was hard to get because because you don't speak English and you're so
Right.
tiny, who's gonna hire you? So you were so lucky to get the job, and now you have to go get your fucking kid from hospital because he broke his fucking arms, both of them.
I mean,
I mean,
can you imagine if
you
you're on the other side of the
imagine
coin?
that?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like, but the thing is, to me, that's a parent. Right? When your kid, even though he's as stupid as me, right, do all this stupid shit and broke his arm for his own damn fault, you still got to, bite your tongue, go ask the boss and figure out how to communicate to the boss that you need to leave to go get yourself out. I mean,
It's
it's
intense.
just
I
one of
mean,
those things where, yeah, your kids are really going to determine how happy you are.
I
And
I
and
mean,
so
I agree.
and so there is not much time for you to hang around with people you're not compatible with.
Right.
This is my take on life. It's like take care of the people that's important to you, right? And be there when they need you. But that's what, to me, my philosophy anyway. And this is the kind of person I am, and I like it that way. I don't have a lot of friends, right? But the
Right.
friends, like if you call me and you need something done, you need me, I will be there. I will
Right.
figure it out if you're in jail or you're getting decapitated. You call me at one
Nice.
phone
Yeah, yeah.
call. I'll figure out where to get you out. That's why I don't have a lot of people, but if you are in that circle,
Take care.
you have that benefit.
Right.
But at the same time, you need to earn it,
Yeah.
right? And
I
so for
agree.
me,
Yeah.
is I don't talk to a lot of people because look, I'm not compatible with you. I don't. I mean, there are 7 billion people on Earth. Why am I spending my precious
Right.
time talking to you or doing things or telling you stories that you don't care about and listening to your story that I don't care about? Right?
Yeah.
I don't care about this or that, the other. I care about what I care about. And if you have some alignment, we spend together. Because you and I get together every night. And you imagine every time you come to this the Yomo and you ask True, hey, how's it going? And I say, hey, my day is terrible, blah blah. I
Uh,
mean, you're gonna have a terrible. I mean, just by the sheer kind of like the sharing of experiences, I tell
right.
you all about the shit I have to go through. You're gonna feel just as shitty as I am. And you think about it, if I do that every single day, your life seems shitty too.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, like
But
half the damn time,
yeah, but
like
if I come in as this Mexican fisherman and you say, well,
no,
it
it's
doesn't
calming.
matter, and then so whatever you do with whatever stress you
Really
have, you
calming.
come to me, ask you, hey, how's it going? And I do this, I do that. I say, does it matter?
This is the exact reason of why these conversations with you for me is so valuable because like I could easily get sucked into whatever the fuck is going on in my life, and this is a way for me to get a sanity check on it of like, oh, it's okay, like it's fine. Focus on the day, like have a good
We go back
conversation,
to
back
the
to
core
focus on the
values of
values. Yeah,
company,
right. Yeah,
right?
right. Exactly. I mean, it's almost just like a daily reminder to like, it's fine. You're
This is
deviating.
exactly what
You're keep you back on track.
imagine you because you are like 100% focused on this, the pickleball club, right? All you do is focus on that. But at the same time, when you talk to me, you say, well, that's what I'm working on, but that's not what I'm aiming. That's not what I'm
Uh,
aiming for. This is what I'm talking about. The Mexican that you bring up the Mexican fisherman yesterday when we're talking about it.
right.
Say, hey, I'm doing all this. I'm thinking about moving, open another club in San Antonio.
I'm
But
not
then,
thinking that. I'm saying
but then you come
I
back and say,
asked you about
well,
it.
this is the Mexican fisherman
Right. It is.
story
It
all
is.
over again, right? And
It
you say,
is. Yeah.
well, I'm going to step back because that's not what's important, right? So you
Agreed.
understood that when you talk. If not, you start, man, you could start going down this rabbit hole where you could open a bunch of different spots, and then suddenly
Right. I didn't play pickleball. So I just wanted to be a place down the street to go play pickleball and have a good time and be around people I wanted to be around. Like that's what this was all about, and it will always be. It will always be about. Like to ironically, I was talking to Kajol today. We were having a conversation, and it went really well because it went exactly the way that you and I had talked about.
Mhm.
How what I was going to say, and yeah, it turns out she's 100% in alignment with what we talked about too. Like which is great, right? And one of the before we got to that point in time in the conversation, I was like, look, I've asked you a lot about your life, and rightfully so, because that was really my focus of getting to know her more. I don't know if I wanted to say intentionally not sharing a lot about my life, but there's a lot to unpack in the past 4 years that it takes a long time for me to try to describe this to somebody. And I don't know that I want to invest my time into trying to describe it to somebody else unless I know that they are worthy of my time to invest in it. And right. So I started off before I said, hey, where my brain's at and where we're going with this. I was like, floor is open for you. Ask me whatever you want to ask me, right? So she started to ask me similar questions, actually, what I'd been asking her, which rightfully so, she should have. So ended up describing her how this all came about, right? How we're even talking about where we're talking about today and different philosophies on BPMSDM activities and all this other stuff. Long story short, it came to the point in time where it was, I forget where we were, I just lost my train of thought or where I was going with this. I think it was about sharing more about my life with her. It was one of those things where I was like, I think I'm okay with it at this point in time to kind of let you in a little bit further into this whole entire mess, but still trying to keep her at a distance going, like, I don't know that you really fully want to get into this, like this isn't the world that I think that you would be connecting with. I think we can connect in our own way, in our own path, in our own uncommon commonalities, but like as somebody that's like 5 people that I want to be around and probably even that she wants to be around with me. I don't think that that's the relationship that we're ever going to have. And I think we're both okay with that, actually. That was the good news out of that conversation. It is really hard to open up the door and be like, okay, do you really want to know this stuff? Do you really want to get into this? Do you really want to learn who these other people are in this life? Most time, the answer is no. Most people I meet, I'm like, I don't want to do this, man. Like, you don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Can we
Right. That's why you
talk?
have to be honest with yourself
Right.
first. Meaning, say, is this really what I wanted, or is it because I can tolerate something from
Right.
somebody, and wasting that time? Because if
Such a waste.
if you tolerate a circles, right, you are enduring the misery for what? I mean, it's not even important at that point because you say, hey, I just endure the misery just because I
Right.
didn't decide to do anything. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that you can choose who to hang out with, and you can choose what kind of people that will lift you up, or they create that little like nagging on the inside because you say, well, I like that guy somewhat, but there's certain things just irks me, right? If that's the case, then most people, in what I've observed, is that they tolerate these people versus go say, hey, no, don't hang out, because what you say yes to, you say no to everything else. If you and I have this 8:30 time slot, if you say yes to this time slot, you have to say no to everything else.
Exactly. I had to say no.
Right?
I just said no to hanging out with one of my best friends later on tonight. Like, and I mean, if I was a younger warthog, do you know what I just said? I don't know if you just caught what I just said.
You mean the Lion King?
Yeah, yeah. I say that all the time.
Timon,
Yeah, like,
Pumbaa.
yeah, no, when I was a young warthog, I would have easily, and would have been like, fuck it, we're just gonna stay out until 2 in the morning and have a good time. It's been a while since we caught up, and we're gonna have a wild night. And it's just such a different existence in life, when you're kind of focusing on your values. And I
Well, I
remember
think it's when you don't know your values.
right. Yeah, when you don't know, you just do what you do. You just go along with it, right? Whatever's in front of you, you go along with. And like that was what I was getting at with Kajol. She asked me, like, what do you see? Where do you see this thing going in the next 5 years or something like that? I don't fucking know, Kajol. I was like, I literally have no idea. You and I, of all people, should know that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone in 5 years from now. And she was like, oh, you're right. And that was how I ended up into the whole describing my life and what we've gone through together, YOML, Amelia, all the other stuff, focus on your values, whatever. And I try to explain all this stuff. And she appreciated her being receptive to that because I was happy to share that with her. But to your point, it's like, you have to say no to everything else if you're going to say yes to this, right? And I want to say yes to this stuff, right? Like, this is important to me. Like, I would rather only have 2 drinks while I'm out at a bar that I haven't been at a bar. I can't remember the last time I was at a fucking bar. And I'm not saying like that's some badge of honor. I literally cannot remember the last time that I was at a bar. And at this point, I don't know. I mean, I could not tell you. I fucking don't know. And this is kind of blowing my mind. Like, I cannot. I mean, I've been in a restaurant, had a drink, but I can't remember the last time I went to a bar to just go have a drink with a friend or something like that. So I think it was October, maybe of no, September, I think, of last year. It was what is probably been 6 months since and that was the only time I can even think of in the past year before that. And that was a weird occurrence that night. I don't know. It's just this doesn't happen. Like, I mean,
Right. What I'm saying is, if you sit down and you write all the things you want to do, right? I guarantee you, there's not enough time in your life to do all of them.
Mm-mm.
Okay. And so that means you're gonna have to say, well, pick the one that you want to do first. That's most important to you. Do that first. And if you have others left over, then you can do some more of whatever else. But I'm saying is, if you are not spending the time with the circles of influence that you would like to feel the most, then you are saying, if you say yes to the thing that's it's so, I can tolerate these circles, then you're saying no to the real circles that you want to be
Right.
in. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, because when people comes to me, right? If they are not aligning with me, they look at me as a boring guy. Because if you ask me, hey, how's it going? It's good, right? Anything new? Nothing.
No.
Right? When you are not aligning with that kind of character traits, it's an off-putting for you.
Right.
You think I don't do anything. You think that I'm not adventurous. I don't do much of anything. I'm the most boring person. But if you are kind of people that seek peace and quiet, then you're gonna like what I mean. It's like you think about, hey,
consistent as hell, man.
yeah, well, how's it going? Oh, I get bashed today by this guy, and then some person step on me, and some other person stab me in the back, blah blah blah. I had into a fight with this guy. Well, that's a lot of activity. But is that what you want?
No.
For me, is I don't want to have to get into a confrontation with anyone. I don't want to have to, defend myself in a knife fight or a shootout or whatever. Right? I don't want any of that. So to me, exciting to you, it means what? Right? And to me, this is what I'm talking about. Is if I go out there and I basically try to make this life exciting, then I would endure the adrenaline rush and all that. And that's not me. So in that kind of circle, in that kind of environment, right, I'm always anxious. I'm have anxiety. I go home, I'm stressed out.
Yep.
Right?
I mean, you don't want that.
because that's not who I am. In that circle, I'm out of my element.
Right.
And so when you're out of element, you are creating misery for yourself. That's what I'm saying is you got to choose, but choose the right one that makes you feel like this is where you want to be. Because that is such an important decision that people give up that choice. Because somebody comes to you and say, hey, Chris, let's go to a party. What'd you say?
When I was younger, I would have said, let me get done what I have to get done first, and then I'll go.
But then the thing is, there are things you are better suited for.
When I was younger, I would have done that. I would have gone to the library, studied, and then I was like, then I'll meet you guys out. Like, even if they all started at 10 p.m. and I needed to meet them up at 1 a.m. or whatever, I'd be like, okay, I'll go get done whatever I get done, but then I'll still go out and do this, and I'll suffer the consequences in the future.
But that's the problem is when you suffer the consequences, it takes away the time from your pickleball playing, your tennis playing, anything, taking care of Luca, whatever is important to you.
Oh yeah.
It has to be a no. But that's what I'm saying. It is like you just mentioned before. It's obvious. It's very obvious what I'm saying. But people can't do them because when they say, hey, let's go to the mall, let's go check out this movie, let's go do this, let's go do that. You don't really want to, but it doesn't hurt
to fill time. It's not there's nothing purposeful about it. And yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, because once again, I'm only as happy as my least happy child, right? Like, I mean, if I don't do this stuff, if I look, I could have stayed out with one of my friends tonight until skipped this. We could have just drank until 2 a.m. in the morning or whatever. I would have woken up hungover the next day, and I could have been like, oh well, I'm pretty kind of hungover, like I don't think I need to. I don't want to wake up and write today. I don't want to really, I don't really have any energy to go on a run or whatever, do whatever I got to do. The least happy child is
Amelia suffer, your wife suffer, and then she's gonna get mad. Luca's gonna have like, hey,
and it's
I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen to him. He may say, hey, I decided to go and mess up all your computers or whatever, and then create more chaos. It's just a compound effect out of control.
It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. I mean, you're only as happy as in this scenario, your least happy child. And like it, to be fair, maybe one of the key takeaways then, as before having children, I didn't ever have to think about who I was making unhappy, besides maybe my wife or significant other or somebody I was in a relationship with. I didn't think about my parents' happiness when I was doing something. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't think you did either. I don't think most kids think about their parents' happiness with their actions in life. I don't think they think about their siblings' happiness. I don't think
about my happiness.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what I was getting at is.
But then when you get hurt, you call mommy.
Exactly.
I mean,
And she's
you see
she's
this bunch of
unhappy,
like
you know.
buff bodybuilders and buff like very tough guys like all
Right.
along there and blah blah blah. And then mama, mommy, it's like mommy, I want my mommy. It's like
Of
you're a
course.
grown ass 40-year-old woman, man, and when you call mommy.
I mean, of course, because you're only as happy as your least happy child, right? You know, as and a parent's always going to do whatever they got to do. But I think summing up my thoughts on this one, if you don't have children, then there's nobody you're really accountable to, you know, other than
You are
yourself.
accountable to yourself because the thing is you
But
are also making yourself unhappy
but if
without
you
doing it.
don't, if you haven't figured that out yet at that point in time before you have kids, then you're just kind of aimlessly wandering through life, you know, and that's even worse. At least having your kids holding you accountable to, you know, a baseline of like, well, okay, I can't do this because this isn't gonna make them happy, right? I can't, even with Luca or Amelia, if I can't parent the next day because I'm out drinking with my friends all night long or doing something dumb,
I mean, this is the reason why you don't give Luca liquor, right?
right,
Because that's doing something dumb, right?
right.
It's going to make him unhappy. It's going to make you unhappy because doing dumb
Do
shit.
you fucking see this, by the way? This is
Yes.
after I got rid of, what the fuck is happening? What in the fuck? What is this novel that's happened? This has been since what? This is right before you and I had jumped on a call. What 8:29. This has been in the past hour. I don't know what the fuck is happening. And then all these other things are all right. Anyway, I don't even want to know. I'm not gonna try to even I don't even know that I have time to unpack that.
It's like you go to meetings and like look at all the messages I have, look at all the emails I have, this is all the phone calls I have, this is all the meetings I have, and I say that's not about your honor. I feel sorry for you, Chris.
I don't even know how to unpack that.
You go, yeah, that's true. Hey, how many meetings you have? None. How many emails you get? No one called me. No.
Question we could leave for everybody is any final thoughts for you?
Choose your circle when you can.
Agreed. And choose your circle based off of what's important to you in the first place, anyway. And that is how your circle forms, anyway. But it is kind of a circle.
But you have to understand to say no, because the point I'm trying to make is that it's obvious when I say it, but people they don't know they're doing it because it's a nudge in one direction. Like I asked you, hey, let's be friends. Okay. Can I have time? Okay. Let's go to a movie. Okay. Right. This is what people do is they basically get nudged just a little bit. So they don't notice that they are wasting their precious time saying yes to the okay, to the yeah, I have to do this. This is my important thing I have to do. Because you're saying yes to the okay, you have to say it to everything else. And that's something that it's silently stealing your time away from the core values, the Beaver Must Dam activities.
Yep, I agree. I mean,
it's a silent thief.
100%. And yeah, it's easy to know if you know who you want to be and where you want to go, and it's really hard.
Same thing with
it's
social
impossible
media.
Almost. Yeah, it's all. Oh my god, I re-downloaded LinkedIn and Facebook because
you had to.
like won't even let you go onto the online browser. They're like, you have to open this up in the app for like LinkedIn for like job applications and stuff. And so I had. What's been happening? I've been on Facebook Reels for the past like 2 weeks now, and every goddamn time somehow my mind magically goes to Facebook and LinkedIn and whatever, and I'm like, what? I'm like, what happened? I don't want to be on this. I don't know how. It's just like magically happening, and I'm like,
time thief, man.
I just want to get rid of them, but I don't want to have to re-download them every goddamn time that I need to check something for actual functionality of it that I need to check it for, Anyway, all right, enough of that. All right, question we can leave with everybody is, what can you do to play a meaningful role in someone you love's happiness, even though if you aren't physically with them? I think that was the question I was grappling with this particular one. But, in general, I think it could be the people that are the least happy people around you.
I can answer that question.
Yeah.
Be yourself.
That's exactly the right answer. The day that I deviate from that is the day that I know that I'm not doing what I promised.
Don't be not Chris. If you say, hey, Chris is a father for two, you got to be that Chris.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You say, hey, Chris is a father of two. That means you are father to Amelia and Luca. So Luca and Amelia is important to you. So you have to be that role. Because I'll be this jingle guy. I'll be this entrepreneur guy. Or I'll be this, whatever guy that is not you.
Right.
And that's where you stray away And because you stray away from who you are, it actually creates misery for the people that are around you. You create misery for your wife, your Amelia. She's gonna be sad because you're not doing
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
promised you did. And then Luca's gonna say, "Hey, where's Daddy? He's drinking all the time." He's like somewhere else, and Luca say, "Yeah, where's Daddy?" If you're not being you, you're actually not making people around you happy
Agreed.
because they are attracted to you because it's you. They attracted to you in the first place. Now you're
Right.
not.
Right. I agree. I don't think you could say it even better than that. Honestly, that's a great summary. Thank you for sharing, and thanks for joining. 5 more, and then we are done with the original marathon. Then we go into the ultra marathon, but that's neither here nor there for everybody right now. Thanks for joining, and we will see you tomorrow night.
Good night.